and something related to Albaz being turned into a dragon by his girlfriend Ecclesia. One more. They are trying to push anime as best as they can. Makes sense. When will we get the full movie? I don't know. First of all, figure out what level 1 Earth Winged Beast Attack Monster does. 300, 300. We got the duck stats. Yep, duck. You know, type once per turn. If a tuna is sent to your graveyard even during the damage, that's in any way, by the way. So, effect, cost, battle, specialist from your grave, if it was there with a monster, or hand even if not. My favorite line of text is just the 10 plus words you have to put on a card to explain, like, from a very basic mechanical level how it works, you know? Even if not. There's like 3, hang on, 1, 2, 3, 4. So like a tier 7 tuner like support card has 4 parentheses in explaining how it works. I see why people don't play this game. If Junk Warrior or another monster that mentions it is on the field, you can change all monsters support shows with 19 or more attack to defense, and special from the extra for the turn except synchros. If Junk Warrior or another monster mentions it is on the field. All of that for like a quick effect freaking shield or I don't know. You know how people refer to cards as like Stratoses and stuff? I'm sure there's a generic term for something that puts things in defense. Book of Moon kind of works, but that's Face Down specifically. So that's the generic term for Book of Moon effects. But what's, I don't feel like there is something for putting... Generic Econ... Econ has a whole other effect that's arguably better than the first effect, so I don't know. Position Sloth. Alright, we've got a generic 3-material level 10, rank 10 monster that requires 3 pens. Jupiter, the power patron of destruction. Once per turn, you can also exceed this by using one monster you control equipped with 3 or more equips. This is indirect support for that new, what's it called? Archetype, right? This thing, right? This isn't new? Why is it near the front page? I guess it's just announcing the rarity or something. I remember it being broken. Okay, another new card. Alright, this is the new one. Dragon Gate. Rank 6, generic. So, you know, this is what Beatrice died for. You can only, once per turn you can exceed Dragon Gate by using a rank 3 lower exceed you control and transfer its material. What the fuck? It's actually Beatrice. What? What? You made this with Dante. Alright. Cannot be used material for an exceed. Hold. Cannot be used material for an exceed the turn it was exceed summoned. Once per turn activates turn, the rest of the turns can attack all monsters who put a control once each of detaching number of materials from this card. Against the house for each card type attached. Does it must be fully turn well, I mean, like, the summoning condition is pretty much Beatrice. In both ways, you know? Rank it up Dante. Make it 2 level 6. This is so ass it fits me. 1,000 for each card type. I was thinking about, like, how do we make Zeus with this? Like, make it as thick as possible, you know? Like, try to get, like, a 6 material Zeus or something. It can't. Because, like, it's so tiny, it's got 11 attack. And, like, you know, you're gonna be using monsters realistically. So you're all telling me it's materia actors. Well, good for that. All 4 of them. Congrats, materia actor players. And fucking joy. I'm using McTeam material. Oh, right, yeah, no, of course, yeah. That's the whole restriction. Okay, so it's just unplayable in BK. Bot herder. That's me. I'm a bot herder. I'm herding you. You're all bots. You're all definitely free. Normal spell. Target monster you put that is a face-up monster you own. For a face-down defense position. What do you about this face-up monster you own? Like, target a kaiju, you just give them a set. If that monster is no longer on the field... Huh? If that monster is no longer on... How do you target a monster your opponent controls if it's no longer on the... What? Targeting is the cost? Right. So, like... Oh, so removing something later in the chain by cost, like droplet. That monster's no longer on the field, or is a monster you own. If face down, reveal it briefly to chat. We're just making up new lines of time. This has never been... This sequencing of words has never been put on a Yu-Gi-Oh card before. Reveal it briefly to chat. It's like Gage and Seaboard coming up with ways to describe Cyber Jar. What the fuck is this card? Apply these effects and see. Inflict 200, that's it! Like, all this shit for 200 damage? Take control of all monsters your opponent controls except that monster. And that is no longer on the field, or if it's face down, that you have to reveal briefly. Just to check. This is it. I think we found it. Worst worded cards other than like pretty like, you know, nonsense from back in the monsters. This is it. The worst card text on the card. We can all go home. That's it. Retire the fucking game. That's it. It's done. The literal worst card ever printed. You come to your opponent and take everything else. You know what? Sounds like a very funny 2-card combo. It doesn't target. You know, it's literally steal their whole board. Sounds funny. But I can't get over how bad this is worded. And yeah, this is a good point as well. Sound reveal it briefly. What do you mean briefly? Every other card that you get that says reveal or show, it doesn't have like this very arbitrary, subjective time constraint. Who gets to judge what briefly means? Like, your opponent shows you a card they suggest, but it has to be what's brief? A second? Do we have to measure ping? Like, what is brief? Like, nah, I can't. This is it. I'm giving up. I'm giving up on Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I need to make the video tomorrow. I need to sit down and just do the Yu-Gi-Oh card text video tomorrow. I've been debating on it, humming and eyeing for years. Basically at this point, that's it. No, this card has prompted me to make a PS3. This shit has reached its peak. Or not even the opposite. It's nadir. That's it. I hate this. The worst card ever made. Alright, anyway. Can it get worse? The Stigmata Devouring Dragon. Oh, Albaz, don't do that to it. You know. Level 8 Dark Beast Fusion, 3025. Call of Albaz plus a Light or Dark plus an effect monster. Correct me if I'm wrong, but does that make Albaz a super poly for 2? Like just normal summon Albaz?
Oh my god.
Assuming
oh
they have
my
Light,
god.
Dark, and an effect monster. You can use all of those figures from your opponent's side of the field, right? Always has been. In some ways. The first multi-material Albaz. Hey, don't forget Lenitus, technically. This card is special summon. Shuffle up to 2 cards from any graves or banishment in the deck. While an Ecclesia monster is on the field or in either grave, it gains 500, and it's unaffected by other cards' effects. During the end phase of this grave is sent there this turn, you can add the Dogmatic or Tribe Game card from your deck to your hand. Oh great, during the end phase? Really? Oh, for fuck's sake. What can you add with it? A Dogmatica or Tribe card? What's good to add? Oh, is Mercurior a Tribegate technically? Okay. Is it any new spells? You go end phase, add like, you know, a quick play and then activate it and do a fusion and that thing does a thing and then that thing, you know, so like, you know, we're just really extending the main phase 3. How's this deck doing in Duel Links, by the way? Because it's technically probably the only deck ever in Duel Links' history that gets the second main phase. Quite literally. Swordsoul support wed? That's a good question, actually. Swordsoul, what could Swordsoul use? I don't know, just like a Taya or a Moyi special summon? Another long one type of thing? That could be cool. Anyway. Yeah, so, cool cards. Don't know what combos it enables. Probably some. Courier Search is always good, but the highlight of today's cards. Bot Herder. Very briefly, comment down below your favorite steal with Bot Herders. The next one.
Great shit. Big spider. with many tiny spiders. Why? It's a fucking spider. Good job, little Bubby. lucky again. Motherfucker. Nice.
talk about porting video games from one system to another, but one example of a port might be taking a game that uses physical components and creating a video game version. A prime example might be the board game Monopoly. The objective of the game is to roll the dice, move around the board, buy properties, and eventually remove all other opponents from the game by helping them lose all their money. It requires a basic knowledge of math. One benefit of playing an electronic version of this board game is the fact that the game can do the math for you. A second benefit is that you can play against one or more computer opponents if you're playing the game alone, or with friends and would prefer having additional competitors. There are 8 player slots in the NES version that can be filled with any combination of human and or computer opponents, totaling 2 to 8. You can even set up a game that consists of all computer opponents and just watch the computer play if you prefer. And if you think about what a computer opponent needs to do in order to play the game, one critical and potentially complex requirement comes to mind. Trading properties is a major part of Monopoly. Having a Monopoly means owning all the properties from the same color family on the board, or perhaps owning both of the utilities or all 4 railroads. It is very possible throughout the course of a game that you may end up with 2 of the 3 properties and an opponent has the 3rd property that you need. In this case, you could propose a trade to the other player saying, hey, I want Tennessee Avenue, and then either offering something they might want or asking what they would like in return. This requires a bit of thinking on the part of the offeree. They wonder, how can this trade help me? What do I need? Would this give my opponent a monopoly? Am I comfortable with that? If I trade this property to them, how many houses can they buy right now? Among other things. This part of the game is subjective, as the offeree may think several trades ahead and plan to make an offer of their own to a 3rd competitor. With this sort of complexity and subjectivity, let me ask you, and many of you are programmers, how would you program some sort of artificial intelligence for the purpose of trading in a video game version of Monopoly? This would involve accepting, rejecting, or countering a trade from another player, and even proposing a trade. It's a tall order. The task involves taking the subjective and making it objective, with perhaps a bit of wiggle room. Oh, and by the way, this is on an 8-bit system without native floating point support or built-in operations or division or multiplication. If you're a math person,
You got
or a
256.
programmer, we're going to hit some nuts and bolts of NES Monopoly that I'm sure you will enjoy. If you're not in this crowd, well,
I'm sure it's not that
sit
bad.
tight. We'll have all this done in time for supper. I figured there would probably be a lot of code involved for trade operations in Monopoly that wouldn't take a long time to investigate, but this took a long time. A long time. This is just some of the code involved in trading, to be honest. I also spent about as much time as I felt I could on this before making a video, so some sections might not be perfect, but the important stuff should be there. Well, shall we? To propose a trade, press select on the controller, go to properties, trade, and select an opponent, a computer opponent for our example. I, the human player in slot 3, am proposing a trade to the computer player in slot 2. This is the trade screen. The offerer is up top and the offeree is on bottom. We need an example trade in order to parse the code. So let's start by proposing a trade that doesn't really make sense in the context of gameplay, but is good for the numbers that we will see. Here is the current breakdown of properties for the 2 parties. I have Vermont Avenue. My opponent has Connecticut Avenue. Nobody has purchased Oriental Avenue yet. Let's trade Vermont or Connecticut. I initiate the trade by selecting yes. The ball is now in the computer's court. The game recognizes the need for computer intervention and executes the trade analysis code. Pick up that code here. I have a lot of code to trace. Some of it will involve a code walk for a few lines. Some of it I will generalize what a block of code does. Feel free to pause it at any time to read the comments. And I highly recommend watching this on a larger screen, as I've crammed a lot of information into the frame. I'll keep track of some of our finds on the right as we proceed. Okay, this small area at the start sees that the trade candidate is a computer, loads the appropriate destination in the ROM, and jumps to that destination, which is here. This area is a code depot that does a lot of processing, You can see that I haven't commented or labeled much here at the start, and that is because we're going to quickly make a couple of jumps downward and reach check player asset scores before trade. Now at this point you can see things start to get real. You see that I've added multi-line comments and blank spaces between code blocks. That means the logic involved could be tough to follow at just a glance. This player asset score sub, which returns a value, so feel free to call it a function, is responsible for examining the assets, both properties and cash, for both players involved in the trade. It checks mortgages, houses or hotels on properties on the trade table, everything. 0 is used as a parameter that tells the function to calculate the current player assets for the players involved in the trade. Later, we will see the same function called to calculate future player asset scores if this trade would occur. But this first one is for scoring player assets right now. Let's jump in. We start with a bit of initialization, as expected, for several indices and counters. We need to loop through all of the property groups to create a score using their values for each of the 2 players in the trade. Groups would be railroads, utilities, and then the color groups like dark blue, with Boardwalk and Park Place, for example. The second entry in Nintendo's Legend of Zelda franchise was notably different than the first. Like the first, however, it was ported from the Famicom disk system to a cartridge. With this port came the need to alter the code so it would pair well with the MMC1 chip used in the cartridge version. Some alterations were for technical purposes and others for game design. There are many, many things to dissect for Zelda 2. We'll scratch the surface on just a few of them. Let's start with a few differences between the disc and cartridge versions. Both the water and lava tiles animated while navigating the overworld in the disc version. As part of the move to an MMC1 cartridge for Zelda 2, Nintendo removed tile animation. But with that animation removed, have you ever noticed that the cartridge version slows down sometimes on the overworld? Let's do a speed comparison using the Maze Island area of Zelda 2 by walking Link across the screen on both the FPS version and the cartridge version. This emulator can report occurrences of slowdown as a number, and I've included it here. Listen to the tempo of the music, in particular when the playfield is in motion. Perhaps designing the overworld in MMC1 cartridge form was a bit too much of a task, or perhaps the team responsible for the conversion simply didn't have enough time to optimize the code to their liking before release. The woe of many a programmer, regardless of their industry. Zelda 2 has Link collect objects, spells, as well as experience points to increase his level. This information is held in RAM during gameplay and retained in SRAM thanks to a backup battery after the player saves and powers down. To help experiment with Zelda 2, I created a new save slot and then edited various values in RAM in order to have the highest stats, all items, and spells. All of the stats are achievable by simply playing the game, but let me tell you about a mystery. A mystery concerning a stat going beyond what you can normally achieve. Attack power, magic, and life hit their maximum at level 8. That's it. But some way, somehow, a good friend of mine experienced some sort of bug or glitch with his cartridge and found himself with an attack value of F. I saw it for myself. It was legitimate, and we had no idea how it had happened at the time. Maybe he didn't hold in reset when pressing power. There was no way to fix it even if he wanted to do so. No easy way in 1930. But with what he called F-attack on board, the Great Palace went something like, this guy, 1 hit. 1 hit. 1 hit. 1 hit. Giant bot here. It's awesome, by the way. Splits into several normal bots when you upstat him with attack level 8. How about with F-attack? 1 hit. The Thunderbird mini-boss is a challenging battle and requires total concentration in order to land 1 hit. The final battle is an exception. It isn't based on health of the enemy as much as number of hits. No fast battle here. I told the story of this to another friend years later. He laughed and said, the same thing happened to me, but my attack was 0. Nowadays you can edit RAM address 777 and set your attack power to whatever you want. As for what happened back then, I can only guess. Okay, let's talk about Zelda 2's object system. With the exception of navigating the overworld, Zelda 2 is primarily a side-scroller. Side-scrolling areas include townspeople, enemies, and objects. As far as the game is concerned, they are all the same thing. Let's take a look at some RAM values that make up the object information for the various things that he discovers on his adventure. Take a look at quite a few values, but we'll also sort them in a way that makes them easy to follow. Zelda 2 handles 6 objects on the screen at a time. Even things like locked doors and elevators are on the list. Items appearing on screen are slotted into 6 spots, spanning RAM locations A1 through A6. I'll number the columns from 1 to 6. The ID values in these fields are not unique. The same number can represent a different object depending on where Link is at the time. A town, a palace, etc.
Ow.
For our examples, let's use a palace. The enemies that move across the screen appear in slots 2 through 5. This value 13 hex in slot 1 on the left is the elevator. Value 0 over here in slot 6 is a generator object. It tells the game to continue to spit out the 0C enemies that are slotted into spots 2 through 5. Let's see memory rows 2 through 4.
Hey everyone, this is Manly Badass here. Welcome to Mycopsychosis Remastered. If you remember the original, it was the horror game where you had to survive a spore storm. So due to the popularity of that game, it got a remake, new endings, characters, and once again, the line with both the best food. Thank you. What? It has to be free. How can a lime be better than an orange?
Abilities, and then the color groups like dark blue, with Boardwalk and Park Place, for example. Groups are ordered based on their first occurrence on the board while moving clockwise from go. First up is the Baltic and Mediterranean group. Next would be the 4 railroads, etc. So to the code for group 1, this section here takes that 1, calculates an offset, and places it in X. For each group, there is a maximum of 4 possible slots, because the largest number of properties involved in a single monopoly is 4 in the case of railroads. For our first group, Mediterranean Avenue and Baltic Avenue, the slots are Mediterranean, Baltic, empty, empty. The order in the slots is in the same order as you move clockwise from go. The first thing we do with the Monopoly group offset is find the property offset. It is just a picnic of offsets so far. X begins at the highest slot, so we get nothing, and we move to the next slot. We get nothing again and move to the next slot. Now we've hit Baltic Avenue. Our second offset, Y, is 3 for Baltic. So we go to parameter branch. When we entered this huge section a moment ago, this function call used a parameter of 0, so we branched to property check. Okay, if we pause to catch our breath here, all that's happened so far is that we found various values and offsets until we finally have our first property to process, Baltic Avenue. Now we can process it. We have some relevant information for the property. The single byte for each property contains the following. For a highest bit of 7 and a lowest bit of 0, the values are: bit 7 is set if the property is owned. Bit 6 is set if the property is mortgaged. Bits 5, 4, and 3 combine to form a 3-bit value that indicates any bonuses to its rent. 0 is none. 1 means there's a monopoly. 2 means there's one house on the property, etc. The final 3 bits, 2, 1, and 0, are used for the player ID that owns the property. Values range from 0 to 7. In the case of Baltic Avenue, things are a bit anticlimactic as nobody owns it. Guess what? Nobody owns Mediterranean Avenue either. I'll continue the looping and spare walking you through the index logic. Okay, we are now processing the railroad group. Nobody owned short line, but someone does own B&O. So when we reach our property check section, we now have an owner for the property, player 2, the computer that we're trading. The owner ID for the current property is saved off into a temporary array for the current group. The array's size is flexible, and it can grow to a maximum size of 4, of course. So all our logic is really doing at this moment is looping through the entire board and recording the owner IDs for every property that is owned. In addition, if the property is mortgaged, this section would add to the discount score that would be applied after asset score calculation. I left this out of our example for simplicity, but know that it exists. B&O isn't mortgaged, so we move on to the next property in the railroad group. Pennsylvania Railroad is owned by a player that is not part of the trade. It is still written to the temporary array. After processing all the properties in the railroad group, we reach this finished property group section. This block loops back through the owner IDs we saved off for the railroad group and counts the number of properties owned by each player involved in the trade. After looping the 2 properties in the array, the owner count is me, 0, and the computer, 1, for railroads. The block of code after that combines the count for both parties into a single byte and saves it to RAM at the appropriate location for the property group. This is done for each group on the board, and each group has its own byte in RAM that contains a count of properties owned by both party members in the trade. We end up with a block of bytes in RAM where each byte